Okay. Should we have a backup recording? Maybe we could ask, maybe Laura, you want to record on your computer?
Recording, Pete, so I'll have the backup.
Okay, we're good. I'm just paranoid.
I'm just going to stop my share for just a moment while I do something with the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Have you heard from any PAT members?
Holly Bam cannot make it this evening. And that's who I've heard from today.
Okay.
Commissioner McGriff is going to attend.
Is she? Was that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Sage.
Hi.
Hey.
How you doing, Sage?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join the last meeting because I had just gotten my second COVID vaccine shot, so I wasn't feeling very well.
A Pfizer.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Congrats.
thanks.
Yeah, I didn't feel too great after my second one.
Me neither.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi,
Good
Rochelle.
evening.
How is everyone?
Hi, Heidi. And John.
Hello.
Hey, John. Hey, Heidi.
Hey, I had to pick a virtual background that was appropriate for this meeting. So there
I
you
like
go.
that. I want to paint one of those on my street.
I like that one. We need more of those.
Where is that?
So like 11th and forget the cross streets, maybe John Adams.
No kidding. Wow. When did they put that one in?
Time flies. It's probably been 3 years now.
I haven't been down there.
How's it holding up over time?
You know, it still looks really good. It's not as bright as that picture, obviously, but I haven't really gotten out to look at it close, Laura. But I drove over it the other day, and it still looks, way different. You know that you're there. That's unique.
Yeah.
Oh, do you like the sunflower design?
I love the sunflower design. I really do.
Yeah, they want to do it on more streets.
I don't know who did the artwork for that, but I love it.
It was one of those groups that we were involved with Latterette Park Planning, and I can't think of their name now.
That was
Something
Depave?
very short.
Wasn't it
What?
the Girl Scouts group?
Was it
No,
Depave?
it was like not Depave, but it was another group like that.
Something coalition. Yeah.
Because I worked
I
with
just can't
Depave
think of
on
the name.
Latterette Park. So,
Very pretty. Does it slow people down?
A little bit because they don't exactly know what it is, but it's cool. I think where we talked about at the neighborhood association when I was chair was putting it on the four corners by the library and the senior center and Atkinson.
A big good spot.
Yeah, several people. The church loves the idea.
There are a lot of cities doing cool things, paint like that, not just as artwork, but as, if there's a proposal for a street diet or something, or like parklets downtown or whatever, where they're actually using temporary paint and hay bales or whatever, and really giving people a visual of what it could look like without going to the expense of permanent infrastructure stuff. A lot of fun stuff.
It's 6:02, and I just maybe give ourselves one more minute to see who trickles in.
I think it's the weather.
And then I will start the presentation.
Okay, I guess Mike and Ray, we get to make all the decisions. The meeting will be over in 5 minutes. It says there's 13 participants.
Yeah, we have a lot of folks from our project team that are on the line.
Okay.
So our PAT, in terms of our PAT participants, I think we have about 8 or 9.
Well, Sage is on.
Kelly
Sage
just
is certainly
arrived.
on. Yeah.
Yay. Hey, Kelly.
Hello.
Kelly's on. Hey, Kelly.
Hey.
I don't see Sage.
Oh,
I'm here.
yes. All right, I think we should get started, Pete. I'm happy to go ahead and share my screen. We'll go over quickly the agenda, and then we figured we'd start our PAT meeting this time around with a little question and have folks kind of get their gears rolling for the discussion we're going to have this evening. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see that.
Yeah. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. So this is our 6th Project Advisory Team meeting. And this evening, we're going to be covering another couple of topics for the visioning. But I want to kick it off with an icebreaker. And the icebreaker is, what is your favorite park, trail, or natural space in Oregon City? And that's a really tough one for me. For me, I'll kick it off. I really love Promontory Park and the trail that goes down through Waterboard Park, or what is called Waterboard Park. And that, I haven't been there in over a year now, but that used to be my regular run when I ran. But yeah, that's mine. Great view of not just Oregon City, but the Willamette, West Lynn, and everything north of there. All right.
Thanks, Pete.
Do you want to pick the next person, Anise, and just go around?
Sure. Sage. Favorite park, trail, or natural space in Oregon City? Sage?
Oh, you're muted, Sage.
Let's see. Favorite park, trail, or natural space? Probably have to say the trail that goes along Waterboard Park, because you're able to go between 2 different areas of the city. And I would like to see more of that, actually, other than the metro park that's going in.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks, Sage. John, you're next.
Oh man, this is a tough one for me too, but I'm gonna go with, I love the Kenema, well, let's call it the metro side of the Kenema Park. I just love the geology up in that area. The trails that they've done have been done in a really nice way. Not many people know about it, and it's just some amazing different, there are lots of differences across that property. So I really love that area.
Thanks. Ray?
I don't know if I have a favorite park trail in that area because I'm just so picky. But I mean, I do go through Hillendale Park for biking to avoid Malala Avenue during construction, but I don't stay in the park, so I don't really consider it as a favorite park of transportation. So for enjoyment of parks, I'd say the park blocks in downtown Portland. I really enjoyed that during the PSU, and bringing something like that to Oregon City, I think would be great to have some activity in parks. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Heidi?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Chapin Park for my favorite, just because it's literally like our house backs up to Chapin Park. So we are out there. I have two sons, basically every day walking the dog, or during this time they've been out playing, and we've been able to see neighbors socially distanced in the park. So Chapin Park is our neighborhood park.
Great. Denise?
Well, I to be politically correct, I have to say all the parks in Oregon City are my favorite parks, but I will have to say that the two that resonate the most with me, and the one I use the most now, is I walk from the elevator, the grand staircase, across the bridge on Territorial Road. And I don't know what that park is called in West Lynn, but it's along Territorial Road and then goes along the Willamette River to the McLean House. It's a little about 2 miles. I do that a fair bit because I like walking across the Oregon City West Lynn Bridge. And then in my neighborhood, I guess I'd have to say it's a cross between the promenade, which again is another 2-mile jaunt, and then Waterboard Park, which I like. And if you haven't been there for a while, it looks really beat up, but it's coming back. And then of course, the newest park that's getting redesigned is Ladderette Park. And I can't wait to go on that giant slide in the park.
Great. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
Kelly?
Well, I'm gonna have to go with Rivercrest. I just love the different areas of the park, the trees, the open spaces to still play, but yet the water pad and the basketball/tennis court. So there's just a lot there in a compact space. And even though I haven't been there yet, I'm really excited about the Tyrone Woods Park because Ty was a classmate of mine, and I know my graduating class from high school really helped to try to raise some funds for that park. So,
Oh, wow.
and it has a dog park in it too, which I think is, needed around the area.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Josh?
Hey, everybody. I've only been here twice, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher the name, but Kenema Bluff Natural Area.
We'll help you. Kanema.
Thank you. Kanema. That is good to know. But I love going there. It's beautiful. I love looking at the lake. Yeah, it's incredible.
Awesome. Mike?
Well, if you ask just me, it would be the promenade all the way out to Kanema. But if you ask my dog, it would be Wesley Lynn. So take your pick.
Okay, we'll take our pick. Kidding. Nice. Rochelle?
Well, working for the Parks and Rec Department, I have to copy what Denise said, and all of them.
Of course.
Actually, yeah, the one
Bias.
yeah. The one park actually that came to mind was the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, because I miss, and I'm reminiscing about the days that we had the summer concerts down there. And it just was so much fun to see so many community members there and smiling and so happy to be out in a large crowd. So I'm holding on to those memories, and I really loved that space and what it created for the community. So
You would have loved the Oregon Trail pageant. I don't think you were here then, but that used to be before concerts in the park, and everybody came to the Oregon Trail pageant.
Oh, neat.
Great. Thanks for that, Rochelle. We'll have to go check that out.
Where was the Oregon Trail pageant held?
At the end of the Oregon Trail,
At the EOT? Yeah.
Alice Norris was the director of it. And they would put on a pageant every year celebrating the Oregon Trail, and it was pretty awesome. It was quite the production. I don't know if anybody's in this group that's ever gone to it, but it was kind of winding down when I moved here. But Rocky, I think, appeared in it many times. But you could ask Alice sometime about it.
Fun. Tim.
Yeah, gosh, a lot of great places. I love running on the promenade. It's one of my favorite places, but I have to say natural space and would be the Environmental Learning Center at Community College, not just because I'm the president there, but because I really love just wandering through. And when I was a kid, we used to go on field trips there all the time. So that just brings me back to a long time ago. So that'd be my favorite space.
Love it. Thanks. And last but certainly not least, Victoria.
Hello, everyone. So my favorite space, of course, is the promenade because I look out onto the promenade and I walk that twice a day. So love that. And I think I'd have to agree with Tim. I really love the updates they've done to the Environmental Learning Center. It is beautiful. And I hope we get to enjoy it with a lot more people soon. So
Great. Thanks, Victoria. I don't think I missed anyone else, but if I did, please speak up. All right. Thanks for that. We thought it would be kind of fun to talk a little bit about what our favorite spaces are, natural, trail, park, other, just because this is one of the topic areas that we have yet to cover in visioning work. So I will hand it back over to Pete, who will just quickly run us through again our process, our objectives here, our schedule, and then it'll go back to me and I'll walk through a little bit of the same content we walked through in the previous meetings while adding a little bit more, and then really opening up the rest of this meeting this evening for discussion. And we can talk a little bit more about how we do that. We had planned on a couple of breakout rooms just for more focused discussion and just room for everybody to speak freely. So I think we'll still plan on doing that, even though we're a little bit smaller of a group. But that is the flow of our evening. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Pete, who will run us through the next couple of slides, and then I'll take it from there.
Great. Thanks, Anise. So updating the comprehensive plan begins with outreach from the city and input from the community to develop a vision for the next 20 years for Oregon City. And based on that vision, we will work together to prepare a new comprehensive plan to guide the city's decision-making about a wide variety of issues related to population growth, land use, and public investments. Next slide, please. And so there will be 4 general phases for this update with community engagement from the beginning right through to the end. The visioning process will wrap up in January 2021 and then phase into the actual plan update process. And that's the overview. Does there anybody questions about the schedule? Okay.
Great. We can always, yeah. Thanks, Pete. And we can always come back to scheduling and such if anybody does have any further questions about that and or process. Okay, so a little bit of this content will be fairly familiar, but I'll kind of breeze through it. But it's always helpful to reorient ourselves as to why we're here tonight, what we're doing, what we did last time, and what we're doing next time. So first and foremost, this group of meetings we're having with you as a PAT is really focused on developing the overall vision. We've had lots of discussions over the past couple of meetings, kind of focused on key topic areas. We're going to have yet one more meeting tonight where we're going to focus on the last 2 key topic areas. And then when we come back to you in a month at the next PAT meeting, we'll have some draft vision language ready for you to review and react to and discuss. So it'll be kind of a compilation of everything we've heard from you over the past couple of PAT meetings. as ready as probably all of us are to start digging into the meat of the comprehensive plan, which includes goals and policies and objectives, we are still at the high level here. So we're still establishing our vision statement and speaking very broadly in terms of the things that we want to see in our community in the next 20 years. So we are at the top of this slide here in the vision statement world, identifying our basic direction. And then once we kick off the comp plan work, which will be in this summer, so like starting in June or July is when we'll start kind of narrowing down to the goal statements and the policy direction for all of the topic areas that we are identifying in our visioning work. So that's the flow, but we're still pretty far up on the chain here, or the ladder here. We gave you some examples of vision statements in other communities a couple months ago, or maybe last PAT. Here are just some snippets of some examples from the city of Redmond, down in Central Oregon, the city of Sherwood on the right. And you'll see, you know, some of these vision statements are a couple pages long, some of them are half a page. They're usually organized by topic area. So this is kind of, you know, generally what's out there right now, and we have an opportunity to really craft something that is Oregon City specific. So that's very exciting. So last time we talked, last time we met, we went over some of the key themes we heard through all of that outreach that happened last fall and early winter. We asked some visioning questions that were really focused on what do people love about their community today, and what do people want to see in their community in the next 20 years. So you have kind of the raw materials and all of that information from previous PAT packets, but we just wanted to throw up some bullets from what some of those key themes were from all of that outreach. So in terms of what we love today, just throwing up some bullets here that indicate some terms that we heard often. So I don't need to go through all of these, but all of us will have, or sorry, Pete and myself will have this slide up for easy reference, so that when we go out to breakout rooms and we want to refresh our memory on some of the key ideas that had been bubbling up through all of that outreach, we'll have that easily accessible to share. But just take a moment to refresh your memory on what those key ideas were, and note that there's a lot of language here that we might want to very well include in the draft vision language, or sorry, the draft vision statement, which is also language. And then the next slide, or the next question, was what we wanted to see in the future. So we see another set of ideas here that came up in terms of hopes and dreams and desires for the community of Oregon City over the next 20 years. Lots of ideas for redevelopment projects and mobility and access and connectivity and maintaining historic character and housing and safety, and lots of ideas here. Anybody have any immediate reflections or thoughts or additions or comments they want to make on either set of slides here regarding the key themes that we heard from the community? Mike, please.
I may have missed it, but there's no way I can read those two slides on key themes and the one with the sample vision statements on the screen. Is it possible that, and you may have sent them out, but I don't recall getting them. Can we get those sent out to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies for the small text. Thanks for flagging that. Next round, we'll make sure that the text is a little bit larger. I know it's certainly not like the most visual representation of ideas, so appreciate that, Mike.
I'd really like to see those two slides, the key themes ones and the sample vision statements from the other cities.
That sounds good. Maybe Pete, while we're in this meeting tonight, Pete, would you be able to forward the PowerPoint out to the PAT members so that they have that? Thank you. Anyone else? Any thoughts or comments or initial reactions? Okay.
So I just like to clarify what parking means, because for me, I can mean car parking, bike parking. I'm assuming car parking, but just want to clarify what type of parking we're referring to with the second bullet point.
Yeah, traffic and parking alleviation. From my recollection from the raw data that we compiled in that spreadsheet and shared, the parking alleviation was directed towards cars specifically.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we took this information, we reflected back on the discussion we all had with you as a PAT at the last meeting and pulled together a matrix. And my apologies once again, if Mike, if this is quite small on your screen. It's a lot of information, and when the PowerPoint goes out, hopefully you'll be able to pull it up and zoom in a bit here.
Denise, it was one of the attachments that Pete sent.
It was. Thank you.
I have mine right in front of me.
Thank you for reminding me and reminding the group and printing it. That's great. Much appreciated. So as part of the packet, you got this matrix, and this was our attempt to try and start organizing some of the ideas that we've been hearing by each of the 4 chapters that we have, and it certainly can change. And then also, just simply for information and reference for all of you, the statewide planning goals that they would address specifically. I won't at this point in time go through all of the statewide planning goals. We'll do a formal introduction about what those are, what they mean, etc. When it comes time to moving into the comprehensive plan work. But we do want to keep track of what kind of statewide planning goals each of these topic areas and these chapters help us address, because we also have to meet that regulation or that legislation as well. So on the left-hand side, we have the comprehensive plan chapters, identified as strong community culture and heritage, which, given the discussion we had with our PAT, with all of you at the last meeting, there was interest in renaming that chapter to something along the lines of healthy communities, thriving and diversified economy, and then coordinated and connected infrastructure, and then healthy and valued ecosystems. From our last meeting, I think it was clear that there was interest in renaming a couple more of these chapters, primarily healthy and valued ecosystems, and then maybe the infrastructure one as well. So we're gonna have a discussion about that in just a moment. But I also wanted to list out a couple of topic areas that each of these chapters could help address. So for healthy communities, let's call it that for now, ideas and topic areas, related to comprehensive planning and the statewide planning goals could include things like community engagement, historic and cultural resources, civic amenities, community health and safety, diversity, equity, and inclusion. For thriving and diversified economy, some topic areas that we would want to cover here could be economic development, housing, urbanization, design and development. And some of these you might be wondering, like, where did this term come from? And a little bit comes from the language that's used in statewide planning goals, and then a little bit also comes from the language that we're hearing through all of the outreach. So it's kind of a little bit of a mesh of both of those sources. For coordinated and connected infrastructure, maybe this is the chapter where we talk about transportation, public facilities and services, water, sewer, stormwater, utilities, maybe energy. Healthy and valued ecosystems. Maybe this is where we talk about parks and recreation, natural resources, the environment, natural hazards, watersheds, habitat, things like that. So that's a lot of information there, and this was just our first stab at trying to organize it a little bit for all of us to digest. There's a couple of questions kind of embedded in this. It's firstly, we want to make sure that we have these titles for each of these comprehensive plan chapters right, that they make sense. We also want to make sure that the topic areas that we, are potentially including for each of these chapters also make sense. One question that we had at our last PAT meeting was, where do we talk about housing? And so there's, that question is, do we have the right topic areas in the right chapters? So I will bring this slide back up in a moment. And I think I got a little ahead of myself because my next couple of slides were just me trying to recap our last meeting, which I just did a little bit. But I do it a little bit further. So because I think it's really important to think about what we just talked about and then build upon some of the key discussion items that we had at the last meeting. So these were our key themes, which essentially inform those 4 chapters. Here I started identifying keywords that were used at our last PAT meeting. So for healthy communities, we heard feedback around Native American history, diversity, equity, and inclusion, neighborhoods, youth engagement, community and public health, trauma-informed care, identity in place, public art. This is a smattering of things. For thriving and diversified economy, heard feedback from the PAT about local economy, good jobs, active downtown, tourism, affordable housing, aging in place, civic amenities and public spaces, events and activities. And then you'll note for the last 2 chapters were the last ones that we didn't get too deep in discussion around, and this is the opportunity. This is our opportunity tonight, is to talk a little bit more about these 2 chapters. But some items that did come up in the last meeting were around coordination among partners and agencies when we're talking about infrastructure. There's definitely a little bit of discussion we had about the use of the word coordinate and whether it makes sense and if we want to use something else. But there was talk of just identifying the agencies and partners that the city has to work with to provide infrastructure and services. And then finally, healthy ecosystems, a couple of key words that came up, the Newell Creek Canyon, Willamette Falls, recreational opportunities, and areas for play and interaction. So yeah, once again, a little smattering of just some of the comments we got from our last PAT discussion to retrain our brain here and what we're talking about. All right. So it is 6:30, we're a little early. I wanted to break us out into groups, but before I do that, and just kind of give us a little prompt for our discussion, does anybody have any reflections on either of these 2 slides or the matrix, which I can also pull back up here as well? Denise, please.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I tend to lean on the first one rather than putting in the word strong, just call it heritage, community, and culture on that side. And then I also thought under diversity, equity, inclusion, I thought that kind of came under goal number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we talk about community health and safety, that's also kind of goal 6 in a way.
Yeah.
And also goal 8.
Certainly.
But I thought you did a pretty good job of trying to focus them in. And I was just looking at we have some draft city commission goals, and I was just looking at those. There are 8 of them, and I thought would be interesting to take another chart and add another line to it and see how many of the city commission goals align with these 4 topic areas.
Yeah, excellent idea, Denise. I'd be happy to weave that in for you if you'd like to share those goals.
Sure, it's I might just try to do it while we're doing, because I have them in front of me. We're having budget later. Tim's going, oh, budget, yay. But yeah, I'll just take a stab at it and to take a look at it because I thought, oh, these are similar.
Right. And I will note, thanks for bringing this up, but I do know that, so if you look across in the table format that it is in, if community engagement is one line, and you look across to the statewide planning goal that it speaks to. You're right, Denise, there will be definitely some topic areas that will have a statewide planning goal that is already listed. So it'll come up a couple times. And you'll see that I already did that a little bit with goal 5, scenic and historic resources, kind of, fits in a couple of these. I think we will all find that all of these are relevant in some capacity to all the other chapters. So the hard work is parsing this out enough so that it makes sense, but not parsing it out too much that we lose the interconnected nature of having this comp plan by these 4 chapters. Mike, you had your hand up.
A couple of things on those proposed topic areas, and I know they're not complete, but a couple of things I think we need to get on there for sure. Under the strong community one, for example, promotion of the arts.
Yeah.
That should be a topic area. And then under thriving and diversified economy, we for sure need to get tourism promotion under there.
Excellent. I have that actually noted in, apologies.
And I guess, is this the right time to talk about those chapter titles?
It is, yes. I was going to have that as kind of our first question, is what should our chapter titles be? And then you guys can go ahead and have further discussion around that in your breakout rooms in a moment here. But yes, please.
Okay, well, one of the things that I always did back when I was working, you don't necessarily have to be original, but you've got to be a good borrower. So I did some borrowing. I just Googled best city comprehensive plans and ran across one that actually was an award winner, I think 2 years ago, from Plano, Texas. And the topics lined up almost perfectly with our chapters, but I thought they had really simple and easy to understand titles for those. So strong community culture and heritage, they called the social environment. Thriving and diversified economy, economic environment. Coordinated and connected infrastructure was the built environment, and healthy and valued ecosystem was the natural environment. And to me, I know that, they didn't put any adjectives on there like, inclusive social environment or whatever. They kept the chapter titles very simple, and I don't know if that's what we want to do or if we want to, adjectivize them a little bit more. But to me, those 4 things, I think it's pretty simple and easy to understand: social, economic, built environment, natural environment. So just throwing it out there.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I mean, that would certainly be a total rearrangement of the chapter titles, which, I mean, it is entirely in your guys' court. So, yeah, does anybody have any immediate reactions to that before I see Tim and John both have their hands up? Or, John, go ahead, sorry.
I just real quick before I forget, and you went through these slides pretty quick. I think I had something to offer on each of the slides, but I think in the commission's goals, I just don't want to lose sight of maybe it's another, which is just kind of the communication infrastructure. So, Wi-Fi, networks, those kind of things. So I don't want to make sure if that makes sense. I wanted to mention that. Other than that, I really like Mike's comment.
Ooh, you've been talking to Mr. Graham.
And I didn't study, but I'm a total believer in borrowing from good plans.
That also echoes a format that is actually much closer to home. The city of Milwaukee, when they updated their vision and their comprehensive plan, their framework was 4 Ps: people, place, planet, and prosperity. So that's another similar to what Mike you just mentioned. Yeah, I don't suggest we borrow that so closely from home, but There is certainly that method of retitling these chapters.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to, it will be interesting to see how the vision informs the chapters and what they're called. You know, I don't have a preference either way at this point, but I really like the clarity that, you know, was in that Plano, Texas example. And it really depends if people want to put the values up front, kind of thing, to a certain extent.
Tim, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I was just to add to that, I think keeping it simple is going to be easier to remember it as well. That's the beauty in that. My question was, I'm not seeing education or kind of lifelong learning anywhere in there. And I know that that's not necessarily the purview of the city, but just, you know, even thinking about how we're integrating like our historical and cultural resources in the first one, or thinking about just the economy and having, you know, an educated citizen or citizenry as well. So I just didn't know where that's going to show up.
Yeah, that's a great question. Schools, you know, are certainly related to land use. And yes, they may not be driven by the city per se, but I welcome, I mean, do you have any thoughts as to where that would make the most sense?
You know, when I first looked at it, the very first category, the strong community culture and heritage, I thought of having it, you know, under the other, just a lifelong learning or some sort of an educational category there. And I could probably make the same argument for the thriving, diversified economy. But initially, I thought that first chapter.
Yeah, certainly. Also thinking about education as an employer as well, and jobs. I've seen the topic of schools be embedded under a chapter similar to strong community culture and heritage, and it's worked well. But it could certainly be, you know, viewed more through a jobs lens than a lifelong, or than a, you know, learning lens. I guess it comes down to, yeah, what, you know, when we pull this vision statement together, what speaks louder. Denise?
Well, thank you, Mike. I'm looking up the Plano, Texas comp plan thing on my phone, and I'm not going to get distracted, but what was striking to me about it was that knowing that Texas really doesn't have zoning, that they have a comp plan. And it's just interesting that in larger cities in Texas, you can just put anything anywhere. So this will be very interesting to read, but thank you for that reference.
I guess I will, you know, we'll put it back out to this group. You know, to what extent is there interest in completely retitling these chapters in the way that Mike just mentioned? And maybe it's not those words exactly, but talking about the social, the economic, the built, and the natural environment. I don't have any like key words, other words to use off the top of my head, but I'm curious, given that suggestion, where that lies with the PAT.
I mean, I always like simple and straightforward. I feel like if we're trying to communicate, you know, as simple language, as user-friendly as vocabulary is going to get our point across. So yeah, the words or some kind of a like you said, a formula with using the same word over and over is something that I could get behind.
Given where we'll come, given that we will come back to you at the end of May with a draft vision statement, do we want to hold on making that decision just yet until we see the language in the vision statement, and then maybe at that point decide whether, yeah, using those like key terms makes sense, or given our vision statement, we actually really want something a little bit more colorful, or like, you know, more of a statement? That is like one kind of path forward we could do. Pete, do you have any thoughts? You're on mute.
I'm wondering about a hybrid maybe. I think I would have to go into their plan and open up each one and see what they're kind of talking about. They've got, for instance, under built environment, they've got land use and community design, transportation, housing, and neighborhoods. And those are that's a heavy lift for that. And I think ours is a little more simple where we have those, it's under thriving and diversified economy. So it's how we're looking at it. I'm gonna look under, I'll keep looking.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
My only fear, and it's not a very big fear, but we want this to reflect Oregon City. And that's my only statement.
I didn't really hear Mike advocating for those specific terms. I heard him advocating for a little simpler. And so just the only other thing I would add is you've got these or lines, and I was kind of curious if just to document kind of this conversation, should you add something in there, even if it's just the word simplified?
Yeah, I'm actually taking notes separately. Oops, excuse me. Yes. Taking notes separately that on another slide. I wish this was editable, and maybe I'll make it so next time we look at it. But I guess what I am hearing is that there is interest in simplifying these titles. And maybe it's as simple as saying something like healthy community, strong economy, coordinated infrastructure, and I'm not quite sure about the last, but maybe we shorten it just a little bit. Yeah.
I'm gonna jump on with that and just say simple.
Okay.
It's best. I think it's easier for the whole community to kind of follow.
Okay.
Yes, we'll go on the other side that I'm kind of wanting more detail, just because I like how thriving and diversified provides more adjectives about what we want in that economy rather than just saying economic. So I like the detail that this, or 2 extra words. So I agree the way as well.
I just looked under the quality of life, Tim, and that's where they've got education and the Plano one. It's got libraries, library policies, social services policy, parks and recreation, and educational opportunities policy.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was just going to add, I was like, the simpler your heading is, and the less it tells you about what's going to follow, the more likely people are to read what's below it. I don't know, to see what the value statement is after that particular topic. That's maybe one thing, but if all you want to do is read the topic, you may want to put more in. I do like the idea of a clear title, and then what follows will build off of that. But it's really a project advisory team call.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm just going to say amen to what Pete just said. That I think that's the intention. Those are just the chapters. There's no value judgment there. There's no vision to those. If I'm a community member and I want to know what's our city doing about job creation, okay, well, here's economic. Here's economic environment. That's probably where jobs would be. And all of the value judgment and the goals and the vision part of it comes after. These are just simple, as everybody has said, chapter headings. And then I dive into a chapter when I want to look into whatever it is. Natural, I'm worried about watersheds. Okay, that's going to be natural environment. So that's all I think those chapter headings need to be and should be. And then it's the branches off of those 4 trunks of the tree, that the branches are where the meat of our plan comes in.
Thanks, Mike. So what we'll do is we'll take these comments, we'll go back to our to a project team meeting and digest that information. Think about some simpler chapter titles. Maybe we can give a couple of ideas at the next meeting, in addition to the draft vision statement language. And maybe once we have that, we can reassess kind of different options for these chapters and figure out what speaks best to the vision statement and to kind of the overall feel of the comp plan. Does that sound good? All right, awesome. So I was gonna split us into two groups, just two quick breakout sessions for the next 10-15 minutes, where we'll have some time to discuss more specifically key ideas under the infrastructure theme, and then key ideas under the healthy ecosystem theme. Pete, did you just email out this PowerPoint to the PAT? All right,
Yeah.
so to the extent that folks have access to it, myself and Christina and Pete, we all have the PowerPoint, but we can certainly flip back through these slides when we're in our breakout rooms, just as a refresher. But these are some of the ideas that came out of the last PAT meeting. And just to remind everyone, we are still kind of, we're looking for some more ideas under these two themes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just auto assign two breakout rooms, and I will set it for about 15 minutes, and then after that we'll come back together and have one person from each room just kind of report back on what was said, heard, discussed, agreed upon, and share with the rest of the group, and that will be kind of the meat here of our discussion this evening. So we're focused once again on key ideas and statements and themes that we want to capture in the vision statement related to infrastructure and related to ecosystems. All right, so I'm going to create these breakout rooms, and I will see, actually, I'm going to create, sorry, doing too many things at once here. I'm going to create one breakout room. Some folks are going to go into one and some will stay in this main room. So here we go. Whoops, this did not work the way I wanted it to. My apologies. Hold with me for just one moment.
Just gotta love Zoom.
I know. Need to recreate these rooms.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we are one room here. I'm going to stop my share just for a moment so we can all see each other. Great.
Hello,
Hi.
that's me. Am I in with you?
It looks like we have some folks that dropped. Let's see. Sorry, Josh. There's what happened to our hold on one moment. Oh, I know.
I have to choose.
Yeah.
So I need to choose one.
Yeah, can you? And then I will go to the other, I will join either one.
I'm choosing you room one.
Okay, great. I'll be in room 2. everyone, we're back. Hopefully that wasn't too choppy of a start and stop for the breakout rooms. Pete, do you have someone from your group who would be willing to share what your discussion centered around?
Yes, we do. Victoria graciously was volunteered.
Yes.
You love how that works out?
Well, that was good.
Payback's gonna be a bitch though later, isn't it?
But I'm happy to help. I have a few notes. So
Awesome. So basically looking over the coordinated connected infrastructure, deciding basically that we'd call it infrastructure only because there's so many different infrastructures, such as the access to communications infrastructure, which could include broadband. There was something else that I do not understand what I wrote down. Sorry, that's part of the problem in taking notes. But mostly concentrating on infrastructure gaps in that scenario. We talked about parking infrastructure, the public parking structures, transportation structures, again, pedestrian and ped safety, public transit, bikes, bicycle paths. You're gonna have to fill in here, Pete, if there's more for that.
Okay. Really good point was that there's a huge equity issue with respect to communications infrastructure and access to infrastructure. And that affects quality of life. So many people do not have access. And that may also mean access to other types of infrastructure as well. So access to park infrastructure is oftentimes an equity issue. Access to, transportation infrastructure is clearly an equity issue as well. So we need to think about equity in every aspect of infrastructure. Victoria, shall I keep going? And then someone mentioned how Tigard has a municipal broadband system, which everybody can access. And maybe we should look at that. And we have to make sure, with respect to transportation infrastructure, we want to make sure that it means much more than cars. The vision statement needs to say that transportation means more than just cars. And we need to encourage alternative modes of transportation and encourage people and assist people to help them to take advantage of those other alternative modes. But we also talked about boring old infrastructure briefly, like pipes, and sewer, water, and storm. But we didn't spend a lot of time talking about that. And then we talked about ecosystems.
Yep, which we decided to call environments as opposed to, so basically focusing on natural environments. We talked about the fact that there are no boundaries to the environments. So, whether they're private or public. And in that was not included in regards to like parks and recreation, and other types of habitat is waste management, recycling and waste reduction. Talking more about, again, that habitat portion along with the tree canopies. And that's about all I have on that. Anything else, Pete?
No, I think anybody else, did we forget anything? I think that's it.
Yeah, we forgot. We're adding goal 15 to that
Goal
one.
15 and
Willamette River Greenway.
Willamette River Greenway. Yeah, we have these overlays. Yeah.
Thanks for catching that. Great. Thanks, guys. Ray, you want to report back on what we had?
Yep. And I did not take notes, so this is off the top of my head, but I know most things were the same. One difference I think I noticed was we discussed more about coordinating future growth and how to plan, plan for future growth in current planning So that's something that we didn't really decide how to do that, but that's something we're trying to discuss. And then we also looked at big data, looking at like bike share, scooter share, autonomous vehicles, that kind of new technologies. Looking at bike ped and transit safety, neighborhood involvement, and neighborhood active transportation within neighborhoods. And connected infrastructure, looking at communication, especially like during the ice storm, how we had cell service and internet service down. I know I had a week without it, so it'd be nice to have emergency planning for the future when we have another ice storm. Hopefully never again, but just in case. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's top of my head.
Oh, so that's like the resiliency argument, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we had noted resiliency of infrastructure, maintenance of existing infrastructure. Yeah, and as Ray had mentioned, relationship with development, so coordinating development as parts of the city become more built out. The financial feasibility of infrastructure. Climate, I feel like we talked about climate, clean energy, sustainability, of that nature, which I think, and remind me if I'm mistaken here, but we spoke about that under the umbrella of infrastructure specifically. Was that correct, or were we talking about that under the umbrella of healthy and valued ecosystems? I don't remember.
I think we mainly just stayed on the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, Ray kind of captured it, and I agree. There were actually some key things that the first group had brought up that we also mentioned as well. So that's great. We'll make sure to compare notes and compile them and yeah, pull them together so that we can reflect the vision language with some of those ideas. Okay. Anything else to add before we kind of wrap up the evening?
We did talk briefly about partnerships, because there are different agencies managing different types of infrastructure and the need to coordinate that.
Excellent. Okay. So we are at our next steps. Any final comments? We have 10 more minutes. Any announcements? And then our next PAT meeting. That's kind of all I have on our next steps here. So before we move and finish, any final comments, reflections on the evening? Curious what your thoughts were the breakout rooms. Did that feel helpful for narrowing the conversation a bit? Okay, I got a thumbs up from Denise and Ray. Great. Awesome. All right, well, if there is anything else, or you think of anything else based on the discussions you had this evening, feel free to email Pete, and we're tracking everything that is shared. So yeah.
And I know that some of you are already thinking about policies, and that's great. Specific ideas, and that's great too. Just keep sending them my way. We will definitely include them as we move forward. So
great.
I just wanted to add the Plano one. I liked the way they had action statements, which followed up, which had a policy, and then there were action statements below it, which was kind of interesting.
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, we can talk more about. Oh, sorry, Ray. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just trying to understand when the council commission goals were ready, because I know that we discussed at the beginning, and
they're in the budget. They're in the budget. I was going to ask Laura. It's there. The reason I'm looking at it is they're in the budget message in just a simple list on page 1.
And I think maybe draft. Are they final now, or when?
It doesn't say draft on here.
Oh, okay.
I think they were going to go with the budget at the same time.
Yeah, it's on page 1 of the budget message. So it says city commission goals, and then it says Oregon City vision, mission, and then it lists the 8 goals. And so I think we could I know Tony sent that in a, pretty sure he sent it by email, so we ought to be able to get it to you, so.
They were on one of the last agendas, and we have a budget committee meeting next week. So depending on however many budget committee meetings, you should probably see those come out within the next few weeks.
Yeah, but I think we can get them, Peter, Laura can get them to Anais and put that in that chart. Because I ended up making just another column, and I've got, you know, several, I've got them all numbered out by which section they fall into.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering about, is bringing them into that matrix. That's what I'd like to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. So just quickly, thanks for your time this evening. Always appreciate it. We're going to meet as a group once more at the end of May. So I think it's May 26th is the last Wednesday of the month. You should have that reoccurring calendar invite for most folks here from Pete. So at that next meeting, based on our discussion tonight, what we'll do is we'll go through a draft of the vision statement, kind of pulling and compiling all of the ideas we've heard through these last couple of meetings. So you'll have something to review and reflect on, and we can come together and discuss as a group. We can also use the next meeting to further move the dial in whatever direction we want to regarding the titles of our chapters. So that could be another item for our next PAT meeting. Once we have that meeting, we're going to go ahead and present all of that information to a planning commission work session. So the draft vision, your feedback and comments on it, we'll share with the planning commission. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to push it out to the community at large through some online virtual open house that will be live for a couple of weeks, likely at the beginning of June, where folks can also take a look at the draft vision, comment on it, provide feedback. So that will be live in June, and then at the end of June we'll come back to you with all of that feedback that we got, what we heard on the draft vision. We can make final edits to the vision statement based on that feedback and your direction. And once we do that, it should be ready to go to Planning Commission and City Council. And as that happens, we can start together as a group moving into the comprehensive planning process, which is where we get into the goals and the policies. So lots going on. We're going to be moving a bit at breakneck speed. Meetings every month means there's a lot of stuff to go and work through between them, especially because we want to get information out to you a week in advance of our meetings so everyone has time to review all the materials. So that's a little precursor for what to expect in the next couple of months. We're pretty busy pulling together a much more detailed project schedule, and we'll be able to share kind of the rundown for the next couple of months in greater detail at the next meeting. And certainly we'll highlight kind of the key engagement activities and when those will happen and order of operations. So does anybody have any questions about what I just shared or anything else? Okay. Well, with that in mind, we'll end a couple minutes early. And Pete, I'll let you officially adjourn us.
Yeah, thank you to everybody for participating today. And I'm looking forward to even broader participation from the PAT at our next meeting.
Sounds great. All right, everyone, have a great evening. Thank you. Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.